We are going to be finishing up part of the accounting cycle with chapter 4. We look at the first thing in chapter 4 we're going to look at is the closing entries. And what you're going to find, and really the easiest thing to kind of look at with this is I want you to start out this chapter by taking the adjusted trial balance. So you need to print out the adjusted trial balance. You should have had it through June 30th. What I want you to do is I want you to take and draw a line really right here in between the mortgage payable and the R. Curry Capital. I also would like you to draw a line right here where the drawing, or actually not there, I'm sorry. I also want you to draw a line underneath that R. Curry Capital. So you're going to have those two lines where capital is kind of going to be in between those lines. What this does is it separates the accounts. These accounts are permanent accounts. They do not change. They do not close. They stay exactly what they are. All right? Anything below this line is a temporary account. And these are actually going to close. What that means is they will end up with a zero balance. And we have to do closing entries at the end of a year because we need to make sure that our balances are zero. If we're just looking at, if we don't close them out, then the income from one year would move forward to the next year, which would move forward to that next year. And so we really need to make sure that we do close all of our accounts out. Now, the way and the order in which we close out our accounts is we start with our revenue accounts. So we will start by closing all of our revenue accounts. And so that's that R. We then go to E and we close all of our expense accounts. Now we're going to close these to a brand new account we call income summary, and that is going to be the next step that we do is we close this I, which is the income summary account. And then the last account that we close is D, which is the drawings account. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at this adjusted trial balance that we have here, and we're going to break it up. So the first part that we are going to close would be these revenue accounts. Now what you'll notice is that these revenue accounts actually have 23,867 and 178 in them. They are on the credit side. Now, in order to make that a zero, how do I make that a zero? Well, I would have to debit those accounts. So what I'm going to be looking at is I would actually go into the general journal, and let's say that we're on the general journal page 4 for this. So we are looking at, that June 30th date in the general journal. The other things that we're looking at is we have to go in, and so we'll have the income from services would be our account, and the other account we have is concession income. And we will close this to that income summary account. So that's that new account that we have to look at. And so what we have here is we would have a debit for the 23,867. We would have a debit for 178, and then we would have the income summary would be the total of those two amounts. So we have 23,867 plus 178 for a total credit balance of the $24,045. I can't get all that in there, so I'm going to have to scoot it over. So it would be the 24,000, let's see, 045. And that would be the credit side of that. Then the next step is the E. So we need to go in and we need to make sure that we are closing out all of our expense accounts. So we have to close all of these out. Now what you notice here with these expense accounts is that they are on the debit side. So in order to close them, we would have to credit them. So what I do whenever I am looking at that E and closing those, I go ahead and I write the word income summary, because income summary is going to be the first part of that journal entry. And I go ahead on this debit side, I go ahead and put a block there to let me know I need to come back and fill that in. Then I'm going to go through all of the accounts in order that are on that adjusted trial balance. So what I have is sailboat rental expense, and that is for $700, so it's going to go on the credit side. I then have, let's see, wage expense. And for wage expense, it's at $9,683. I will have advertising expense. And for advertising expense, it's going to be $890. For utility expense, I'm going to have $1351. Interest expense for I'm sorry, utility expense was not $1351. Utility expense was $1259. Interest expense is $1351. I then would have insurance expense for $1,000. And then I would list my depreciation. I have $715, I have $260, and $900. And then, so I'll list all those depreciation expenses out. And then finally I have miscellaneous expense. And that miscellaneous expense is going to be for $144. So now what I have to do is I have to add up all of those amounts on the credit side. So I have $700, $9,683, $890, $1,259, $1351, $1,000, $715, $260, $900, and $144, and I end up with $16,900. So I would put the $16,902 right here. Now, the next part, or the next step that I have in this process, is going to be the I, which is the income summary. Now what I need to look at is what was really posted. So if I went through and I posted to the ledger, what would have been posted from these two accounts? So if I go to that income summary, and income summary is actually number 313 in our chart of accounts. And so what I need to look at and see is what was actually posted to these accounts. Well, the first thing that I had posted to this account was this right here, where it was income summary for $24,045. So when I get over here, I will have this $24,045, and I'm going to have $24,045. Here, let me move it over some. That was right? Yeah, 24. So then I have, you know, my other debit column, and then I'm going to have my credit column at 24,045. All right. And so that was on 6/30. This would have been a closing entry. So under the item, you would put closing, and it was found on page, journal entry page 4. Now the other side of this is going to be looking at this part of the income summary, which is at 16,902. So I come in and I would post, and I would have the 30th. I would write closing because it is a closing entry. And it's on page 4, and it's going to be for $16,902. I've got that in the wrong place, sorry. Should be over here. $16,902. So now I have a debit and a credit. So I'm going to take the debit of 24,045, and I'm going to subtract out that credit of 16,902. And when I do that, I'm going to end up with a balance in the account of $7,143. Now, with the I part of this particular entry, what I have to do with closing entries is I need to make that a 0. So if that is currently a credit balance, then I would have to debit the income summary. So what I would be looking at is I would have to have to debit income summary, so that would be on top, for the amount of 7,143. The account that I close income summary to is going to be the capital account. So I will take it to the capital account for 7,143. So then this would get posted as of the 30th. Again, it would be closing. I would have a general journal page 4, and it's for 7,143. And so then my balance is actually going to be at 0 whenever I finish making this entry, and that is account 313. For the capital account, when I would be looking at that particular account, the capital account is account 311. It currently has that $95,000 in it. So what I would be looking at up to this point is from June the 1st, that very first entry, GJ1, I do have that $95,000 amount. That is posted in here as a credit. Then what I would do is on the 30th, I do have this closing entry. It is found on page 4, and it was for, if we go back, 7,143. So I would have 7,143, and that would have to be added to that 95,000, and I would have a balance of 102,143 is what I would be looking at for the capital account. The next one that I have to look at here is going to be that drawing account. So when I do look at the drawing account, this is right here. Again, this account has a debit, so to make it zero, I would have to credit the drawing account. And what I close it to is the capital account. So the journal entry that I would be looking at on 6/30 would be the capital account, and the balance that I had in that account was in the drawing account was $4,300, and so that would go for the drawing, because I do want that drawing account to be zero. And then I would have this journal entry that I would have to make as of the 30th. It is a closing entry, so you would see closing there. It is found on page 4, and it is going to be a debit. So again, here with this one, I had the balance of 102,143, and I would have to subtract that debit from that to get the new balance. And so my new balance would actually be 97,843. Trying to get that in there. $843 is what you would actually see as far as that balance goes in that capital account. Now, what the other accounts should look like the drawing account, for example, that drawing account, which was account 312. It would have had that balance of 43,000 in it. So I'm just going to kind of put what the balance was, and that it was at that 43. Then when I do this journal entry on the 30th, I would put closing GJ4, because that's a page number, and then this would be a credit, and so then I would zero out. And that's really all of your income accounts, which I mean by that I mean your revenue accounts, your expense accounts, and your drawing account. Every bit of that should be at a zero balance when you get finished with these closing entries, because you want to close all those temporary accounts to zero. Now on this, don't forget that when we post, we do have to put those account numbers in. So I have 311 for capital, and then it was 312 for the drawing account. One of the most common mistakes that I see is people try to close the capital account. Do not close the capital account. The capital account is a permanent account, all right? So I just want you to remember that this is a permanent account. It does not close, all right? The balance on it changes. That's why I've got those underlines done the way that I've got them here, because I want you to know that this changes, all right? But it is still part of those permanent accounts. So it's going to change. This one's going to change right here, but it's still part of a permanent account. Everything else down below it's going to zero, and all of this is going to stay the same. All right? So it looks identical. It's going to stay the same. Anything above that top line is going to stay the same. The capital account is going to change in balance, and anything below it from here down, is going to go to zero. So those are just some of those things to remember as far as all this goes. Now, you can actually prepare your financial statements straight from your adjusted trial balance. And that's a good place to start for your financial statements. And we'll look at financial statements next time.